Tonight, live from the flood zone here in Texas.
That is what a war zone would look like. That is what a bomb would do.
The images are haunting. Personal items lost in the raging waters, overturned cars, teddy bears, and shoes. The Guadalupe River exploding over its banks, rising 26 feet in 45 minutes. People told to evacuate their homes in the middle of the night and to leave behind everything, even their dogs. At least 104 people are dead, including 28 children, nearly 1,000 water rescues, and time is running out for search and rescue teams. Matt Gutman and Maria Villarreal reporting from here on the ground. And Ginger Zee tells us why this area is bracing for more. Also tonight, President Trump meets with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the White House continues to push for a ceasefire in Gaza. This as the president presses forward with blanket 25% tariffs targeting Japan and South Korea beginning August 1st, revealing tariffs up to 40% on other countries and signaling more on the way. And Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson reflects on her legacy. She talks to me about her new book, her historic role on the court, and her view on the state of the country. Does the current state of American democracy concern you? All that and more coming up on a special edition of Prime, live from Texas.
From ABC News, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We are here in what's known as Hill Country in Texas, where everywhere you look, there is heartbreak, pain, and so much anguish. It should have been a holiday weekend of celebration, but then 4 months of rain fell in a matter of hours in the dead of night. Tonight, at least 100 people are dead, including dozens of children. As the rain fell, the river rose quickly in the dark, flooding hundreds of homes and several children's summer camps. Rescuers jumped into action as many residents and those children were fast asleep. By daylight, other rivers flooded as well. This time lapse shows just how quickly it all happened. The Coast Guard lifted dozens to safety in helicopters overhead, debris up to 3 stories high on both sides of the river for miles after that wall of water roared through. At Camp Mystic, the harrowing and haunting aftermath. Tonight, at least 27 girls and a counselor are dead. There are still more little girls still missing tonight. And we're seeing some of the first faces of those who did not survive. So many sad stories, and we are here not only following their stories, but the mounting questions about just what went wrong. But first, our team was out as the sun rose this morning, seeing the remnants of lives swept away in the 4th of July horror. In the silence after the flood, echoes of missing children. Tiny souls washed from tiny feet, scattered like whispers of the lives swept away. Each shoe, a story. Each missing child, a world undone. Each soul left behind, a painful reminder of a soul still missing.
Emotions are high this morning, and we have all lost people in our life. And so it's going to look weird. We're going to see state troopers crying. We're going to see some stuff today that's not pretty. We have to have extra skill today because there could be body recoveries, and we want to be careful.
In the muddy aftermath of the catastrophic flooding here in Texas, David Carpenter's strength is hanging on a prayer.
God, we come before you today. Make our hands strong and fast and prosperous. Help our vision to be sharp. If you can put breath in their lungs, God. Put breath in their lungs.
At sunrise, these men gathered tools and machinery from David's sawmill business to head into the muddy trenches to the areas that have yet to be cleared.
Look at that. That is what a war zone would look like. That is what a bomb would do.
The flooding in Texas has left more than 100 dead and dozens still missing. In a desperate attempt to find those lost, David is the conductor.
I need 4 guys here right now, 2 chainsaws. We got to mark that pile with something so we don't go through it again, okay? Do you understand? Okay, make it happen.
Leading fields of men with their saws and bobcats into the unknown. They're near where Camp La Junta once stood.
Oh my God, there's so many people in it.
A boys' summer camp that was swept away in the early morning of July 4th. Fortunately, the campers at Camp La Junta were evacuated, but just a short distance away, some of the little girls at Camp Mystic did not make it out. Where the girls' cabins are just hundreds of feet from the river, the aftermath is as haunting as it is heartbreaking. 27 campers and counselors reported dead. 10 young campers are still missing. But David's team thinks there may be survivors in the area. These men think they've found an air pocket that could contain survivors. Instead, lifeless reminders of the lives swept away. Not far from here, we meet Renee Carbajal, whose home was badly damaged. When did you first get a sense of how bad this was?
When our renters called us and said that they couldn't get out of the house and that the water was up to the top step, we just told them to call 911, stay safe. If they were safe, just stay where they were, just wait for the water to go down.
She was in her RV at the time, which got swept away.
It was minutes of getting everyone out. There were people having to swim, but thank God all of our people got out.
For the past 3 days, Jonathan McComb has helped search and rescue around the clock. I guess a lot of this is just debris from homes?
Yes. I know that we have found stuff that, was part of Camp Mystic, which is about 21 miles away.
For Jonathan, this is extremely personal. He lost his own family to flooding 10 years ago. You know, unfortunately, all too well, the heartbreak that a number of families are dealing with right now. What do you say? What do you say to them? How do you try to comfort in this kind of time?
You just tell them you're sorry and you love them, and we're here to work for you. This is a collaborative effort between a whole lot of agencies and organizations, and we're here for the common good of humanity and helping those out that can't help themselves right now.
How are you feeling?
Lost.
Yeah. When you think about all the loss of life, right here in your hometown, what's your reaction to that?
I don't know that there's words. Yeah, it's bad.
This stuffed animal, caked in wet earth, just one more painful remnant of the young lives interrupted, once loved, now lifeless, lying in the mud like a silent witness. Questions are being raised after this catastrophe. Many are left wondering if more could have been done to prevent such terrible loss. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, has been here on the ground taking a closer look at whether a better warning system may have saved more lives. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Lindsay, I wanted you to see this river because the Guadalupe River, which just raged 30 feet beyond its banks on July 4th, is now this gentle stream behind me. This is still one of the most flash flood prone regions in the country. People remember this flood and that flood. And what they've been using is word of mouth for generations. This time, that system of warning did not work. And they're wondering, could there have been a better system for them?
Tonight, along with the thousands of first responders and volunteers searching for signs of life along the battered banks of the Guadalupe River, there is a parallel search for answers. Whether lives could have been saved by a better warning system. The first flash flood warning issued at around 1 a.m. The first flash flood emergency blasted out just after 4 a.m. But that's not what roused Stuart Gross from bed.
What was it that woke you up?
The fire department.
It wasn't the alert on your
No.
phone? What you're saying is that a better alert system would have saved lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it wasn't for the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department, we would have lost a lot more people down below.
Countless others also missing the alert. Officials ducking questions about the alert system.
It's very tough to make those calls because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf.
And late today, canceling an afternoon press conference. ABC News learning the National Weather Service in Austin and San Antonio did have 5 meteorologists working the severe weather event as part of its surge staffing protocol. It's normally staffed with 2. They issued warnings that rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying locations may rise out of their banks. Dozens of summer camps dot this beloved region of the Guadalupe River and other waterways here.
We're here just outside Camp Mystic. You can see the front of that building ripped clean off. Over here, people taking out the belongings of campers, including their trunks. And the floods from this weekend raising questions about whether it's safe for camps like this to be so close to the river's edge.
They call this area Flash Flood Alley, and it's one of the 3 most dangerous regions in the entire country for flash floods. The river flooding nearly once every decade over the last 100 years.
And Matt Gutman joins us now. And Matt, as you mentioned, officials are ducking questions about the alert system. But what are you hearing from people here in Texas? What's the discussion around whether people needed more warnings?
I think it's clear that people wanted or had hoped for some sort of warning. The problem is along these riverbeds, Lindsay, is that you don't have reception. So those EAS alerts we get on our phones, that didn't work for many people. That's why they had relied on word of mouth in the past. But just a short time ago, Texas's lieutenant governor saying that sirens may have made the difference, sounding throughout the valley, cascading and echoing through here. That may have saved lives. He said going forward, the state will pay for them. Lindsay.
Especially when it happens in the middle of the night. All right, Matt Gutman, our thanks to you. We're joined now by our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z. Ginger, we're hearing that Central Texas is not past the dangerous weather yet.
That's right, Lindsay. So the mesoscale convective vortex, this slow-moving system that triggered the initial tragedy, it's still not moving and circulating over the same area in Texas. That's why under it, you've got this flood watch until 7 p.m. A couple of flash flood warnings in there, too. Remember, the difference there is a warning means it is imminent. It is happening. So these are both a function of time. Now, for the next couple of days, we will still see some scattered storms. You're not going to see a whole lot of change, and it unfortunately will fall in the same area that had 10 to 20 inches. You saw that radar estimate there. It does become much less widespread, and through Wednesday at 6 p.m. we put that on the map. It gets a little drier Thursday, Friday before the rain returns for this weekend.
And we're learning more about just how much rain fell here, including that up to a foot of rain fell with just a matter of hours, especially in that Camp Mystic area early Friday morning.
I mean, when you talk about 10 to 15 to 20 inches, look at some of these totals from different cities. It was not just along the Guadalupe River. It was, look, Hext at 18.5 inches, San Angelo, more than a foot, Bertram at 20.92 inches. It's really hard to get that much so quickly. And a big part of that, as I mentioned, was this MCV, this system that did not have steering winds. It was not moving. It just circulated over and over. And on top of that, it had 3 sources of abundant moisture from the Gulf, from the Pacific, and if you can believe it or not, from the remnants of Barry that made landfall in Mexico more than a week ago. So it was just the confluence of the worst meteorological and topography that came together, Lindsay.
And we've also been reporting on the alerts that were sent out ahead of time, ahead of the rain and ahead of the flooding. What do we know about which alerts were actually sent for people in the area and where they were sent?
Right. So the National Weather Service puts out watches and warnings, and we'll go through the timing here so you can get a sense. The day before, the flood watch begins just after 1 p.m. And so that's where it's saying, hey, everybody, this is going to be an excessive rainfall day on the order of 5 to 7 inches, which, as we know, much more than that fell. But still, this is the beginning of them saying, you know, some 15 hours ahead of time, look out. Bad rain coming. By 6:10, the WPC, part of NOAA, puts out this, now we're talking 3-inch per hour rainfall rates. When you have a couple of hours of that, now we're talking 9, 12, 15 inches plus possible. And so by midnight, the heavy rain begins. And then at 14 a.m., you start to see the considerable flash flood warning issue. That's the first, about 3 hours before the worst of the wave of water comes through. That would have gone off on phones that had EAS and, most importantly, on NOAA weather radios, which we will talk about. At 2:25 a.m., you start to see those rivers rise dramatically. And by 3:35 a.m., now we've got a flash flood warning that reads and would read out to you, move to higher ground now. Act quickly to protect your life. So this is when they're saying this is horrible, it's imminent, it's happening. And then by just after 4 a.m., now it's a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now. This is a rare event. And so by 4:35, when everything's really happening, they've got multiple of those warnings on the ground. So the warnings were certainly there, Lindsay. How people got them, that's the part I think that needs to be figured out.
Of course. All right, Ginger Z, our thanks to you. I know you'll be back with us in just a little bit. And we want to turn now to the massive search and rescue effort that's underway here, from the volunteers and local first responders to National Guard and active duty forces. Our Maria Villarreal flew with a Coast Guard search crew looking for survivors and those who are still missing. Hi, Maria.
Hey, Lindsay, listen, the idea of finding the missing, that mission, it is weighing heavy on all of these communities, as I'm sure you found out today. But we've talked with a number of emergency crews. We've been out with them in the field. They are worried that time is running out and the chances of finding anyone alive are grim. But let me tell you, Lindsay, they are still holding out hope for themselves, but also for these communities.
Tonight, across this ravaged flood zone, the painstaking search for the missing. And it's a race against the clock. We headed out with the U.S. Coast Guard and got a first-hand look at what they're up against. High above the Guadalupe River, the massive scope of this disaster is quickly revealed. Debris and devastation as far as the eye can see. Pilots searching with multiple cameras, including one with heat-detecting technology, scouring water and dense woods below.
It is a very good camera that we have, and it's also an infrared camera, so we can find heat signatures, things like that.
Out the back, equipment ready to go for a rescue. They've already helped save hundreds.
We're going to do our best to try to rescue anybody that's still out there. That's what we're going to be out there to do.
And Maria joins us again. And Maria, you're in front of an all-boys camp where the kids were stranded. What's it like out there now?
You know, Lindsay, this is Camp La Junta. It is an all-boys camp. I have a number of friends back in the DFW area that actually send their kids here. They were surprised to hear what had happened. In fact, one of the kids was in the cabin. He said that there was a child that was sick. He woke up in the middle of the night, and as he stepped out of his bed to talk with his counselor, he stepped right into water. He notified the rest of his cabin and possibly saved that entire cabin. They got up to higher ground eventually and then made their way out. I mean, you can tell that this camp has been considerably damaged. A ton of destruction everywhere. We see, obviously, river toys out in the back. I mean, there's a propane tank turned over. I mean, over on the side over here, we can see a log cabin dramatically, impacted. So definitely some big changes for this particular camp. And it took days to get most of these kids out of here safely.
And give us a sense of how crews are dividing and conquering such a broad search area.
Yeah, at this point, we've heard that this search area spans about 6 counties here in the Hill Country. It is not easy for these, first responders to get out here. It's very strategic. We were with a number of crews today. They say that they basically search a kind of like a 3-mile quadrant. Once they are done with that, then they go back, they rest, and then they get their orders. But that can take about 3 to 6 hours, depending on where exactly they're searching. But they are trying to do this still by air, by land, on foot, and also within the river in and of itself. It is an all-out team effort here that takes hours at times if they find someone they believe either, as a recovery situation or possibly someone alive.
All right, Maria, thank you so much. And for more on the response in the community and helping those affected by the floods, we're joined now by Pastor Joe Taylor and Children's Minister Carissa Warren with the Southern Oaks Church here in Kerrville. Thank you both so much for joining us. Just want to start out by asking, how you doing?
We're doing good. It's the people here that we are praying for and trying to support and encourage. There's just our church family did not have much damage at all, but we all know a family who has. Mm-hmm. And some of the people that we grew up with have lost grandchildren. So there's a real heaviness in our town.
And so how do you explain this to children in particular when some of them may have lost their young friends?
Yeah, that happened to our granddaughter. Yeah. Well, you tell them that storms happen, and that we can't help it when storms happen, but it's how you respond to the storm that's important. And when you can get the children to help carry support and packages and love things to the children who have been affected and to the other families, it helps teach them that we have a responsibility to encourage each other and to support each other.
And can I add to that a little bit too? I think that it's important to focus on God's character in times like this, and we know that God is a loving God.
Amen.
And we know that he has promises to us, and he's faithful to keep his promises. And whenever we remind ourselves of those promises, and that this earth is temporary, and what we have to look forward to with him is good, I think it helps. It helps kids to be able to put heaven's perspective and earth's perspective, together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does, for sure. What have you all been, I know there's a great need here in the community. What has the church been doing to try to address those needs?
Yeah, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we organized a drive for supplies, resources, gift cards, monetary donations, and we were just overwhelmed. Thank you. Overwhelmed with donations and support, not only from our community, but communities all over the nation. And now, we're in the long-term game. So we have supplies that these families, a lot of them can't use them right now because they're displaced from their homes. Right. And so a lot of these supplies, they're going to come looking for them in months to come. Mm-hmm. So right now what we're doing is we are getting supplies into the families' hands who need it right now, and the families who don't need it right now, we're basically setting up like a storefront, obviously at no cost, but where families can come in, grab a bag, they can shop. We have everything. They can get exactly what they need. And so we just want them to know that we're in it with them. At this time, we're absolutely full capacity for supplies. We are still asking for monetary donations and gift cards. The reason for that, like I said, families don't have a place to put supplies right now. Gift cards allow them to go to the store and get exactly what they need at that time. Monetary donations allow us to support them. Like there's one individual who not only did she lose her home, but she lost her place of work. So she's unemployed now. So it allows us to help long-term with bills, with rent, housing, and a few more requests that have come in are to help with funeral expenses as well.
So for those who are at home and would like to help, and I know you said your shelves are full as far as those kinds of donations, but the monetary and gift cards would be beneficial. Where can people send that?
Website.
Yeah, okay. So the Facebook page is where we're communicating most. That's like the most updated. So they can go to our Facebook page, Southern Oaks Church. They can also go to southernoakschurch.com and go to the Give tab. There's a drop down for flood relief. They can click on that. They can donate. 100% is all going to these families. We've already distributed tons of gift cards. The word is starting to spread, but that's what we need help with. We need help spreading the word to let all of these people know. I was walking around before coming down here and telling them, come to our church. We have supplies. We have resources. We are like a store. We have everything they need. We can support them right here where they are. But we need the community to know that, and we need people, especially in the Hill Country, to share.
One of the main teachings in God's Word is that no matter what storm we're going through or where we are, God is with us. So He doesn't leave us, and God was with all those children, and He still is with all the families. And so some people might run from Him and blame Him, but those who are smart and wise will run to Him and call out to Him.
And the community is really showing up as the hands and feet of God. We're seeing so many God moments. We want to magnify those God moments, and the community is doing that.
We want to thank you both for ministering to us as you are this community. You know, the traditional question that people ask, why do bad things happen to good people? A lot of times that's difficult to understand.
We live in a broken world.
Outside of the...
We live in a broken world, and we need to learn to pray for each other.
We thank you.
Actually pray. Like, let's put our phone down and let's actually pray for these people and for our community and for each other intentionally.
We thank you both
Thank you
so much
for the time. Really
Thank
appreciate it. President Trump signed a disaster declaration for Kerr County here in Texas and said he expects to visit later this week. In the White House, he is waging his trade war, pressuring some of America's largest trading partners and setting a new deadline to make a deal. ABC's Rachel Scott has more.
Tonight, President Trump sending letters to countries around the world, threatening steep new tariffs unless they make a deal. The move sending stocks tumbling. Japan and South Korea, two of America's largest trading partners, now both facing 25% tariffs. South Africa would be hit with 30% tariffs. And for Myanmar and Laos, even steeper 40% tariffs. Trump writing the United States will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. These tariffs may be modified upward or downward, depending on our relationship with your country.
We welcome you as a trading partner, and here's the rate unless you want to come back and try to negotiate.
The administration promised 90 trade deals in 90 days, so far only announcing a deal with Vietnam and framework agreements with China and the UK. Today, the president postponing his own deadline again. Those tariffs were scheduled to go into effect Wednesday in just 2 days. Now countries have until August 1st. The White House asked, why the delay?
Weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the president was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet, and that's what this administration continues to be focused on.
Our thanks to Rachel Scott. President Trump is now meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for dinner at the White House this evening, following a meeting between Netanyahu and Secretary Marco Rubio. Let's bring in ABC's Alex Prochet for more. Alex, this is the third time Netanyahu has been to the White House since President Trump took office in January. What can we expect to come out of this meeting?
Well, Lindsay, it's the third time, but this meeting is decidedly different from the other two. And the first two were very public. You had photo ops between the two heads of state. This one mostly behind closed doors. And chief among the discussion points is going to be that agreement, that ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas that's being mulled around right now. But Lindsay, keep in mind, Netanyahu right now is facing a lot of pressure to get something done here. And I say that because obviously this has been a chief a deal that the United States wants, but also Netanyahu is facing pressure in his own country, currently being on trial for alleged crimes including bribery, fraud, and breach of trust on multiple fronts. Those trials have been suspended as he's working on these diplomatic and national security issues, but there is a real pressure here to deliver.
And this is not the first time that Trump has said that he wants a ceasefire. Is there hope that the U.S. can facilitate a plan that will work for both Israel as well as Hamas?
Well, there is a framework by which all parties are kind of mulling over right now. It would see 10 living hostages leave from Gaza, and then the remains of about 18 others be brought back to Israel over the course of 5 different trips in exchange of that, in exchange with some Palestinians over the course of that 60 days. And right now, Israel has, they're on board with it. The wild card here is Hamas. They agree with portions of it, but not all of it. But also, I mean, time is critical right now because blood and food shortages are also something that are really affecting the area.
All right, Alex Prochet for us. Thanks so much, Alex. Authorities say that a gunman armed with an AR-style rifle ambushed workers at a U.S. Border Patrol office at the airport in McAllen, Texas. Tonight, the hunt for a motive and the clues they found in a car. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
The bullet holes in this Customs and Border Protection office in McAllen, Texas, marking an extraordinarily dangerous morning that ended in a gunfight with a suspect dead.
That's a different gun. You heard that?
Yeah. Barrage of gunfire captured in this video.
At the Border Patrol station, it's at the Border Patrol station.
There were many dozens of rounds fired.
Authorities claim 27-year-old Ryan Lewis Mosqueda stepped out of his car and immediately began firing, injuring 3 people, including 2 officers, one of whom was shot in the knee. The threat of an active shooter forcing nearby McAllen Airport to briefly shut down. Authorities say the suspect drove all the way from Michigan and are investigating why this car seen here had Latin words spray-painted on it.
Our thanks to Pierre Thomas. With so many still missing here in Texas, some families are taking matters into their own hands to try to find loved ones, including a dad whose heart-stopping call from his son pushed him to take matters into his own hands, creating a plan to find his son and the friends he was with at the time.
My son, Aiden, he's 22 years old, was at our family vacation retreat in Hunt, Texas. I got a call at 4 a.m. from my son where water was coming into the house and they could not get to the highway, and quickly became overwhelmed by a wall of water that went from 4 inches to 4 feet in a matter of, less than a minute. While I was on the phone with them, a large cypress tree floated into the house the house just disintegrated and I lost contact with them. I immediately got on the road and drove 5 hours to the property to start searching for my son and his 3 friends. I think I'm channeling this energy into a desire not to leave my son to the river.
Just heart-wrenching stories. Coming up, extreme precipitation events in the U.S. are on the rise. We'll tell you exactly where and why. ABC Chief Meteorologist and Climate Correspondent Ginger Zee joins us again to explain what's so unique about this part of Texas that it's earned the name Flash Flood Alley. Welcome back to ABC News Live Prime from Texas. The floods here are putting climate change in focus and the role that it plays in weather events like what we saw here. We, of course, can't say that a given weather event like the extreme rain and flooding here is caused by climate change, but climate research has shown a connection between climate change and extreme rainfall and flooding becoming more intense and frequent. Just look at just how intense these weather events have become across the country by the numbers. First, when we talk about extreme precipitation, we're talking about the top 1% of the heaviest events of precipitation in a given area, according to the 5th National Climate Assessment. The Northeast has seen a 60% increase in those extreme precipitation events since the 1950s. That's the largest increase of any region in the U.S. The number of those events in that time has risen by 45% in the Midwest and by 21% in the Southern Plains, which includes Texas. Overall, nearly 70% of the U.S. has seen their heaviest precipitation events become more frequent and intense, in part because of climate change, according to the 5th National Climate Assessment. And while these extreme events have gotten worse as the planet warms, the National Climate Assessment warns that reaching 2 degrees Celsius of warming would result in even more frequent and severe rainfall and flooding. For more on the climate change connection, let's bring back our chief meteorologist, Ginger Zee. And Ginger, our by the numbers lays out very clearly what's happening across the country with these more intense weather events. But why exactly is this happening?
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple law of thermodynamics, basic physics of the atmosphere, Lindsay. Basically, a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture. And you can put numbers on it and quantify it. Climate Central says that for every 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming, the atmosphere holds 4% more moisture. So, like you said, we do not see these events caused solely by human-induced climate change, but we amplify what naturally happens. And I'm sure in the coming weeks we will have climate attribution studies that show us just how much we had to do with this particular storm.
And we know that this specific area of Texas has a history of major and deadly flash flooding. It's even been referred to as Flash Flood Alley. What is it about this area in particular that makes it so susceptible to these kinds of floods?
It's really topography and geography, Lindsay. So you've got steep terrain, which helps water fall quickly and converge into river basins. You have shallow soil. Going into this, we were severe to exceptional drought. So it's already really tough for that soil to absorb the moisture. It runs right off into those rivers. And then this part of Texas regularly has Gulf moisture surging at it. And so you're going to have more frequent storms like this that sit and spin and drop heavy amounts of rain.
Not good news. All right, Ginger Zee, our thanks to you. And coming up, we're gathering amazing tales of survival, people waiting hours, not knowing when or if they'd be saved. And we'll hear one of those stories coming up next. Welcome back, everyone. We are in Kerrville, Texas, a town devastated by those deadly flash floods that have taken more than 100 lives. And while we're hearing many stories of tragedy, we are also hearing amazing stories of survival. I had a chance to speak with a man a little earlier about his own harrowing ordeal. We're joined now by Christian Fell, who hung onto a meter box in order to survive the floodwaters. So grateful that you are here to be able to share your story. So let's back up just a bit. At what point did you wake up and realize there was a problem?
Whenever I heard thunder from the storm outside, and I swung my feet over the edge of the bed, and I realized I was standing in water.
And so then what do you do?
So originally I thought someone broke into the house, so I got up to go see what all the noise was. And as I walked into the living room, I was on the phone with my mom. I was just telling her that there's water all over the floor, and I'm just looking around, and I look to my left, and I see that the wooden deck was just completely torn up, and there's just water just flooding in from the floor. And that's kind of when I realized it was a flood.
So how'd you escape the house?
So I was on the phone with my mom, and then that call dropped. And then I called my dad, and he told me to get in my truck and go to my aunt's house. So that's when I grabbed my keys, and I start making my way through the kitchen to my car, which was parked on the other side of the kitchen. And I can't see outside, and I didn't realize the water level outside was higher than the water level inside. And so when I open the kitchen door, all this water just starts flooding in. And I try to close the door, but it's just too strong to even walk through or to even close the door. So I give up on that, and I start walking back to the bedroom. And by this point, there's so much water in the house that all the furniture is floating, and I'm having to climb over it to get through the doorways and back to the bedroom.
So are you on the second floor?
No, it's all one floor.
All on one floor. And so you escape through a window? And then what happens? You're fully submerged in water?
Well, thankfully, the rest of the house was pretty much acting like a dam. So when I went through the window, I wasn't getting tugged away by the rest of the current. And I started reaching around, and I found the metal conduit that leads to the meter box, and I held on to that, and I looked around the corner, and I saw my truck just floating or tipped over in the patio with the hazard lights flashing. And then I started climbing up the meter box, and that's when I was standing on it.
So the water is gushing all around you as you're holding on to the meter box? So how long do you end up holding on to it?
About 3 hours.
3 hours. At one point, did you ever think, I may not survive this?
Yeah, whenever I was in the house, I just knew I couldn't swim for several hours, so I knew I needed to get out and hold on to something because there was nothing for me to grab onto inside the house.
And so at what point are you rescued?
It was about around 6 to 7 a.m. when I saw the police officer walking through the street with his flashlight on. And that's kind of when I realized I could climb down, and it was finally safe.
What were you thinking in those moments when you thought you might not survive? Is your life flashing before your eyes? Or
I didn't even think about not surviving. It was just to survive.
And so you get rescued, and what's the first thing you do?
I asked the police officer for his cell phone so I can call my dad, and that's exactly what I did.
And what was that reunion like with your family?
It was really, I finally felt relaxed. I was just glad it was all over with, and just a state of disbelief that actually just happened.
Well, Christian, we are so glad that you are safe. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we speak with a grassroots organization helping with search and rescue efforts on the ground here in Texas. And the man accused of murdering his 3 daughters over a month ago may have been spotted. We'll tell you where. A father accused of murdering his 3 daughters has been on the run for more than a month. We'll tell you where he might have been spotted. The famous American park overrun today by heavily armed ICE agents, and the U.S. city drowning in trash as sanitation workers there strike for the 7th day. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. A possible sighting of Travis Decker, the father accused of murdering his 3 daughters over a month ago, is being investigated in the wake of a family saying that they may have spotted the fugitive in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest late last week, according to the U.S. Marshal Service. An affidavit previously revealed that Decker, a U.S. Army veteran, had allegedly searched on Google before the murders. How does a person move to Canada? A review ordered by the President Trump-appointed leadership of the Justice Department and the FBI found no evidence that the deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein kept a client list of associates whom he blackmailed or conspired with to victimize dozens of women, according to a new memo reviewed by ABC News. The Trump administration had been teasing the release of new information on Epstein for months, but the DOJ now says further charges are not expected in connection with their probes into Epstein. Several major medical organizations filed a lawsuit against the Department of Health and Human Services and Secretary R.F. Kennedy Jr. today over what they call unlawful unilateral vaccine changes. The lawsuit seeks preliminary and permanent injunctions to enjoin Kennedy's new COVID vaccine recommendations and a declaratory judgment pronouncing the changes as unlawful. In response to a request for comment, an HHS spokesperson told ABC News the secretary stands by his CDC reforms. Federal agents in armored vehicles pulled up to MacArthur Park in the Westlake area of Los Angeles this morning when they were confronted by a crowd that included Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Defense officials said 90 armed members of the California National Guard were involved in the operation to support immigration authorities in the city. No arrests are believed to have been made in this latest operation. President Trump and Elon Musk are once again trading public insults after the Tesla billionaire, the world's richest man, said he will create a new political party called the America Party. Trump on Sunday said that Musk had gone, quote, completely off the rails. Tesla stock plunged nearly 7% today, primarily in overnight trading. Contract negotiations have stalled between the city of Philadelphia and a local union, resulting in a week-long trash strike from the city's sanitation workers. In prior talks, the union asked for better benefits and a 5% wage increase per year over the next 3 years for its nearly 9,000 workers. Some Philadelphians feel as though they're paying the price as garbage piles up in their neighborhoods. The city said staff members from the 911 call center, medical examiner's office, and water department, who are also part of the same union, have been legally ordered to return to work. And continuing our coverage now of the catastrophic flooding here in Texas, we're joined by Brian Trasher. He's the vice president of the United Cajun Navy, a grassroots nonprofit assisting in the rescue efforts. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. So you've just been doing heroes work throughout the weekend. Give us a sense of what this time has been like for you.
Well, our volunteers are the real heroes, but this reminds us so much of what we did in Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. Very similar type of terrain, kinetic, flood waves, rushing water, tsunami-like water going through small towns, taking out structures, and unfortunately causing loss of life.
And give us a sense for people who are just seeing this kind of in shots and a little bit of video on their TV screens. You've been to Katrina, you've been looking at disasters for decades. Give us a sense of how this measures up.
This is pretty bad, and I've talked to some professional emergency response guys that said that this was the worst they've ever seen in terms of damage.
What are people in the community telling you as they see you?
The fact that there's so many children involved, that people that don't even know the kids and know the families, they're still just heartbroken. It's going to take a long time to get over this. When we first deployed, we only use what we call special ops volunteers, and mostly combat veterans. And so they can take just about anything. They're very mentally tough. So regular volunteers wouldn't be able to handle coming across a dead child. But we sent the mountain mules that we use in North Carolina. They're on their way here to help. We have a dog team, drone teams, everything. We have helicopters, obviously.
Give us a sense of it. This is obviously hard work that you do, but you mentioned just a little bit ago, seeing the body of a small child, it's got to be emotionally taxing. How do you navigate that?
I'm a dad, and I would never come back from it. I can tell you right now, I would check out of society and never come back.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what these folks are going through. But what I can tell you is that when we work in states like Florida and Texas that are large and have a lot of resources to put up front, not have to wait for the federal government to step in, they've done a tremendous job responding to this with all the agencies. And we always say that we are a force multiplier. We're here, we have assets and capabilities and a lot of experienced people, but we're only here to help. We're only here to force multiply. And if by helping means staying out of the way, we do that too sometimes. But fortunately, we work very well with the EOC here, and we're happy that we've been able to make an impact. Our K-9 team by themselves found 11 recoveries since they've been here.
What's been the hardest part of it all for you?
Hardest part of it all, I think that we all had a little bit of PTSD after Western North Carolina, and it was almost like deja vu all over again. Seeing the videos of the water rush in, seeing the structures, the cars flipped over, structures completely destroyed. It's been really tough to relive. But again, Texas people are resilient. It's going to take a while to mend the broken hearts, but they'll be back.
Give us a sense about this area, why it's so prone to flooding.
Well, our meteorologists that we have in-house tell us that this is flash flood alley. They're used to a lot of rainfall that causes flash flood. However, it doesn't come like this. So this was not just a typical supercell. This was a mesocyclone vortex that was spurred by the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry that came up the Mexican coast into Texas. And so one of the things that they explained to me was that even though the Weather Prediction Center put out the alerts, they miscalculated the rainfall because the size of the droplets were not what they expected. And so there was more water than they thought there was going to be. And that's just one of those things that the models can't predict. So unfortunately, and I think a big contribution was the fact that it came in the middle of the night when people are not paying attention to their phones and warnings.
And we're hearing that these helicopters that we've seen go by while we've been talking are Coast Guard helicopters that are searching the river. How do you all work hand in hand with the teams on the ground and the helicopters and the boats as well?
Yeah, so when it comes to Coast Guard, National Guard, DHS, any kind of state or federal agency, what we'll do is we'll sort of talk to them first and look at the grids that they plan on working, and then we'll pick another grid, usually at their suggestion, so that we're not in their way. But like, so for instance, when we first got here, we were searching downriver from where the Coast Guard was, just in case there was anything that slipped past their position, that would be there to hopefully find it for them. But they're extremely professional. We try not to get in their way. We just try to be a force multiplier.
Well, Mr. Trasher, we thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Really heartfelt.
Appreciate the team at ABC for always reaching out to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And teams are cleaning up debris, on the lookout for something to bring people answers. We spoke to a man working to clear out some of the devastation. Take a look.
Roll right through here, so watch the dog.
Okay. And it just, all these kids' shoes, man, it just breaks my heart. Life makes no sense, man. And that's all I can think about is my children. We're gonna do our best and bring these babies home. That's my goal.
That's our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.